Welcome back. So we're going to be looking at a new topic, which is maps. And frankly, that would be confusing. What's a map? So in geography, a map is a visual representation of an area showing the physical features, boundaries, and often other elements such as political boundaries, roads, landmarks. So essentially, maps are used for a variety of purposes, including navigating, planning, education, and analysis. So essentially, some of the key elements and types of maps, in this case, first of all, let's look at the key elements of a map. First thing you have to note in a map is that a map always has a title or should have a title. So the title indicates the purpose and the focus of the map. And the second thing is legend or the key. So the legend is a combination of symbols or colors that are used on the map, which explains the map. So we also have the scale, which shows the relationship between the distances on the map and the actual distances on the ground, because you won't be able to actually measure that exact distance when you're walking on paper. I mean, it's actually on a paper. You can't actually put the exact dimensions from the physical world. Else that map would be a very big piece of paper. So the compass rules, which indicates the direction of where your cardinal points are. That's the north, the south, the east, and also the west. Then we also have the grid. So a grid is a network of lines that help to locate places on the map. This can include the latitude, the longitude, or other coordinate systems that may be used on that particular map. So let's look at the types of maps that actually exist. So there are various types of maps that each of them serving different purposes, representing various kinds of information. So the first map we're going to look at is the physical map. So physical maps are designed to showcase the natural features of Earth, such as mountains, rivers, lakes, and also other geographical features. So in this case, these maps emphasize the physical landscapes. So imagine having a map of Nigeria. Now, that particular map of Nigeria that shows you the mountains, let's say, for example, you're able to see where Zuma Rock actually exists, because not everybody has gotten the opportunity of seeing the map, or let's say the rock up close. But you may get a little bit confused and be wondering, where exactly is this thing on the map? So a map that actually shows you Nigeria's forest, shows you the hills, the meadows, the plateaus that actually exist in a specific environment, showing you the natural things, the natural environment. That is actually what we term as a physical map, because it encompasses how that particular geographical location is. And this particular physical map has nothing to do with politics, has nothing to do with ethnicity, the group of people that are living there. All it does is showing you the nature of that environment. So next we have the political maps. So the political maps are primarily used to show governmental boundaries of countries, states, and also counties, depending on the location, because there are certain countries that have counties instead of states, and also have counties as alongside states. So the location of the major cities, the significant bodies of water that surround that particular environment or are around that particular environment. So one other thing you also have to notice that these maps highlight human-made boundaries and the organization of territories. In this case, it has nothing to do with the natural environment, the trees and the forest. Essentially, what is expected of this particular map is giving you a sense of political zones and how this particular map has been divided or has been demarcated, let's say in this case, having boundaries by humans, not by nature. So political maps often include major cities, capitals, which are often for political and economic activities in most cases. So the next map we are going to look at is topographic maps. So the topographic maps offer a detailed representation of Earth's surface, including elevations, changes, and terrain features. So they use a contour line to show elevation, which each line representing a specific elevation level of that particular location. Essentially, this elevation level, you might be asking, elevation level from where? Now, when we're talking about elevation level in geography, it is usually measured above sea level. Elevation, how high is that particular location above sea level? That's where the elevation comes in. So topographic maps also include natural features like rivers, lakes, and forests, as well as man-made structures such as roads, buildings, and trails. So this is like saying a combination of the physical map that we looked at with the human activities merged together and human-made objects. So that's basically or essentially what the topographic map is about. Next map we're going to look at is the thematic map. So the thematic maps are specialized maps that focus on popular or a particular theme or subject such as population density, climate patterns, economic activities, or vegetation types. So unlike the general reference maps that you might be used to, which provide a broad overview of an area specifically, which in this case might be the thematic emphasizes on special distribution and patterns. So unlike the rest of the map, this is basically looking at, assuming now you pick up a thematic map, first thing that comes to your mind is it's going to be showing you the population density. How, in this case, you may say, how many people are living in a particular area? Are people here living sparsely or are they coerced, living closely together? That's basically where this particular map comes in. So we have road maps. So road maps are essential tools for navigating and travel planning, showing you the major and minor highways, the roads, the streets, as well as points of interest such as parks, hospitals, landmarks, which could, in this case, could be a forest reserve, which you might pick interest in going to. In this case, it's not just showing you, it's not really going to be showing you things like people's houses and things like that. It is for roads. Specifically, it shows you the road network within a specific geographical location where this map is actually centered around. So these maps provide detailed information about the road network, including the names and the number of roads, the distances between locations, and also the specific intersections that might be there, which might be useful for you, especially if you are in travel or in transit. So we have the cadastral maps. So the cadastral maps are detailed maps showing property boundaries and details of land ownership. In this case, it's actually a map that shows individual buildings, individual properties within a geographical location and showing their boundaries. So in this case, the map, this particular cadastral map, are essential for managing and recording land ownership and property boundaries, often used in legal and real estate context, not for actually understanding how a particular geographical location is, but specifically for private properties. So climate maps, as the name already implies, it's used for showing information about a climate of an area, such as the temperature ranges, the precipitation levels. In this case, we are looking at the amount of precipitation, which is like rain, the amount of rain that actually comes from this particular location, the climate zones, the areas in a particular location that a specific climate or a specific weather is persistent over. So these maps are used for crucial understanding of climate patterns and their impact on the environment and human activities. So that's where this particular map find their usefulness. So they are often used in environmental science, meteorology, agriculture, urban planning to assess the climate risk and also the plan for climate change and also to develop strategies for sustaining development. Remember, geography is a study of humans and its environments. This is where it is necessary to understand the activities of the environment and how it would affect any human that would choose to let's say, reside or do business in a particular geographical region. So understanding this makes it a whole lot easier for, let's say, humans to actually know if a particular place is good enough to set up a city or is good enough to set up an agricultural society. So you don't expect, let's say, a government of a country that has this particular map, knowing fully well that this region is arid in the sense that it is dry. You already have enough up to 12 inches of rain. And then you decide to go and use that spot as an agricultural, let's say, haven. You are planning for disaster. Hence, these maps are necessary to actually aid and guide governments and private individuals or parastatals to actually set up these things. So we also have the economic resource map. So the economic or resource map shows the distribution of resources such as minerals, forests, agriculture, and also industries that reside or actually located in that particular geographical region. So these maps are meant to illustrate the economic activities and resources, as well as the distribution of those resources in that particular area that the map is drawn for. So this is also useful for economic planning, resource management, and also understanding regional economies. So in this case, somebody who wants to open a company that sells things might pick up this map and notice that if I actually choose to set up my company in this particular location, I won't have much sales because economically, this particular region is not fruitful. So it's best I place my company where the economic boom is better so as to improve my chances of having a business that is sustainable. So that's where that particular map gets very, very useful. So we also have historical maps. So the historical maps represent geographic information from specific time periods in the past. They are used to study historical and geographical problems, or let's say things, history in this case, as it actually implies, historical. So historical maps often include details such as ancient cities and locations which may not exist in that particular location anymore, but existed in the past. So we also have the trade routes that were used historically and also territorial boundaries that existed and might have changed in the time past. Next, we're also going to look at the geographic map, or also known as geographical maps. So geographical maps show types and distribution of rocks, geological features such as the faults and also the folds, as well as mineral deposits. So mineral deposits, assuming there is gold, large amount of gold in a specific place, it makes it easy for you to know, okay, this particular region is filled with precious metals, and maybe it's better to actually set up a mining activity in this area rather than setting up a mining activity in an area that doesn't have any precious metal, which would now make the investment that was made a waste of time. So they help in understanding geographical structure and history of an area, which is useful for mining, oil exploration, and the study of geological hazards that may come therein from the presence of these particular resources or the mining of these resources. So we're going to look at the uses of maps. So maps are incredibly versatile tools with a wide range of use across various fields and activities. So we're also going to look at one of the uses of the map, and the first thing is navigation. So maps are essential for navigation, helping travelers to find their way from one place to the other. In this case, in the modern era, we can actually use our phones now to actually use the map and actually know our way around where we are going to or where we currently are and exactly how far the next place that we are looking for is from where we are or from our current location. For government, in this case, this is one of the most essential things. For government, assuming there is a particular region that is prone to hazards, it makes it easy for them to avoid individual citizens or residents from actually building residential places there, knowing fully well that that place is prone, and also avoiding disasters that can increase fatality in a particular country. For education, it makes it easy, in this case, particularly in teaching geography, just like I'm actually doing right now, history, environmental science, and help students to understand the physical and political landscape of the world. Also, we also have its use case in transportation and logistics, which in this case, transportation is where you have to move one thing from, where you have to move goods and services and people from one place to the other. You need geography to actually understand the roadmap. That is where roadmaps becomes very useful because it helps you to know which routes is best to use, especially in the case where you have certain routes that may have or may be prone to more traffic than the other, helping you to avoid the hell of sitting in traffic. So also property management. Remember, we also talked about a map specifically that is necessary for handling property. Now, in this case, when it has to do with real estate, let's say it is a big estate that has a lot of properties in there, you may have the need to have a map that actually shows you the boundaries of individual buildings or residential areas or commercial areas of that particular place. So we've come to the end of this particular topic. So essentially, we've looked at what a map is. We've looked at the types of maps, which is the physical map, the political map, topographic map, and also even the road maps. We've checked up the uses of maps, and we've also looked at the navigation, planning, education, transportation, and the rest of those things. Thanks for listening.